In 1985, Chevy Chase leapt onto the screen with a string of disguises in Fletch. In this classic and well-loved comedy thriller, Chase plays undercover journalist Erwin M. Fletcher, where while posing as a beach-dwelling addict, Fletch is approached by a businessman who offers him 50 grand asking him to kill him at a certain time and place on the account that he is dying. Fletch can sense that something is not right and does some undercover investigating where he goes on an insane, wacky adventure full of hijinks and many memorable disguises in this comedy classic which co-stars Tim Matheson and Geena Davis, of which many fans believe to be Chevy Chase's greatest movie. So if in 1985 you had already seen Marty McFly go back in time and wanted to see something different, well, it's a good thing that Fletch had you covered. So today we're going to look into 10 things that you didn't know about this movie, so let's check it out.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I borrow your towel for a sec? My car just hit a water buffalo.
Number 10. Fletch is based on a series of novels. Fletch is the brainchild of American mystery writer Gregory MacDonald, and unlike the Fletch movie, which is more of a comedy, the original Fletch books were serious mystery novels, revolving around ex-Marine and journalist Erwin Morris Fletch. The first novel, of which the first movie would be based on, was published in 1974 and was very popular, with it winning an Edgar Allan Poe Award. And a sequel novel followed with Confess Fletch, which also won an Edgar Allan Poe Award, with it being the only time a novel and its sequel have won this award back to back. From 1974 to 1994, there would all up be 11 Fletch books. Writer Gregory MacDonald had plans to take his Fletch book series into a new direction, with the novels focusing on Fletch's son Jack. But sadly, MacDonald passed away in 2008, leaving behind a great literature legacy. Number 9. The movie got made thanks to Michael Douglas. There had been attempts to get Fletch made onto the big screen ever since the release of the first Fletch novel, when a company called King Hitzig Productions got the rights to the first Fletch novel in 1974. But no studio was interested in making a Fletch movie. So in 1976, the rights were then purchased by producer Jonathan Burrows, where he too was trying to get the studios interested in making a Fletch movie. And for some reason, no one wanted to make this movie. He tried every major studio, from Columbia Pictures to Universal Pictures to 20th Century Fox, from Warner Brothers to Paramount, from United Artists to MGM, and many, many more. But they were like, no, we don't want to make your Fletch movie, thank you very much. Burrows would even try to send the script under a different title, but nope, these studios just had no love for Fletch. However, when Michael Douglas got wind of the script, he saw the potential of making Fletch into a movie, so his production company, Vincent Pictures, got on board the project, with Douglas's brother Peter Douglas acting as co-producer. And finally, Universal Pictures got involved to distribute Fletch. Universal had previously rejected Fletch, so I guess they were like, oh what, you got Michael Douglas on board? Well, that's different. Yeah, we'll go and produce this movie then. Number 8. Potential faces of Fletch. As a part of his deal with selling the movie rights of his books, Fletch creator Gregory MacDonald wanted to legally maintain the say into who gets cast as Fletch. In other words, it needed his approval. When the movie was trying to get off the ground in the 70s, two faces in particular who were considered were Burt Reynolds and, Mick Jagger for some reason. But MacDonald didn't like either of those choices, so that was that. As the production of the movie got off the ground, several actors were considered, or were approached, including George Segal, Barry Bostwick, Charles Grodin, and Jeff Bridges. When the idea was formed of casting former Saturday Night Live cast member Chevy Chase in the role, Gregory MacDonald said yes, despite the fact that he had never seen Chase act in anything before. So it seems that with Chevy Chase, the production had finally found their Fletch. Except for one problem. Number 7. Chevy Chase originally turned down the role of Fletch. In the late 70s and early 80s, Chevy Chase's movie career was really starting to take off, thanks to starring in movies like Foul Play, Caddyshack, and National Lampoon's Vacation, proving that he had a successful career in movies ahead of him, outside his SNL fame. However, when the part of Fletch was pitched to Chase, he turned it down. Although, Chase would go on to say that he wasn't even aware of the Fletch offer, and that it was his manager who turned it down on his behalf without him even knowing about it, so who knows. After it became clear that Chase wouldn't be Fletch, the next star who was being sought after to play the character was Richard Dreyfuss. However, Chase was then offered the role of Fletch again, this time by a telegraph by Gregory MacDonald himself. Also at this time, the script had been rewritten by Andrew Bergman, who also co-wrote Blazing Saddles, as well as having a new producer on board with Alan Griezmann. So this prompted Chase to finally agree to star as Fletch, and the character now finally had a face. And so instead, Richard Dreyfuss would go on to write a book about that time that he and his childhood friends found a dead body in the woods. Number 6. Fletch's creator hated the rewrites. Fletch was directed by American director Michael Ritchie, who is one of my favourite directors, as he would also go on to direct The Golden Child and Cool Runnings. According to Wikipedia, he was hired to direct Fletch to keep Chevy Chase in line, as at that time Chase had a reputation for not being the easiest guy to work with. So when shooting scenes, they would do a take which was more according to the script, and then shoot another take where Chase would ad-lib, and apparently a lot of his lines seen in the film were actually ad-libbed by Chase. It seems not only did Ritchie save the day when it came to Chevy Chase's performance, but also when it came to smoothing things over with Fletch's creator Gregory MacDonald, who was annoyed with the changes made to the script and the deviations from his original material. He was so annoyed, he wrote a letter to the studio with a list of changes that were made, demanding that they be reverted back to his original vision. So to put MacDonald at ease, Ritchie took MacDonald on a tour of the Fletch set, and then took him out for dinner expressing how the movie will play out. And it worked. After that, MacDonald was on board. Or as he puts it, beautifully chewed out. Number 5. Filming. Most of the movie's filming location took place around Los Angeles, but this proved to be a real big issue for Fletch's production, as filming took place during the 1984 Olympic Games, which were being held in Los Angeles, which meant that many scenes that were meant to be filmed had to be rescheduled. Filming also took place at Salt Lake City, Utah. The mansion that was used for the Alan Stanwyck's mansion is also the same mansion that was used for the infamous horsehead scene in The Godfather. It is said that Chevy Chase really enjoyed filming Fletch, as well as working with its director Michael Ritchie, describing him as being very intelligent and very tall, who allowed him so much freedom during the shoot. Yeah, look, it's no secret that Chevy Chase has a reputation of, well, you know, being kind of a dick when it comes to making movies. Or at least he was back then. But hey, it looks like with Fletch, it was a production where everything went smoothly and everyone was happy. Number 4. The movie's poster reveals a deleted scene. So in Fletch, we see Chevy Chase go through a series of disguises. Okay, some haven't aged so well, but this master of disguise element brings an interesting spin on the character. Chase himself loved wearing all the disguises and props that were used, as he said it allowed him to play a variety of characters. He would even go on to say that some of the scenes where he was in disguise, he didn't even recognize himself. Some of Fletch's disguises can be seen on the movie's poster, where Fletch is holding the IDs of his aliases. However, one of these disguises is not seen in the movie. This one here, where he's a hockey player. That is because this scene of Fletch being a hockey player was going to be in the movie, but was eventually cut out. While we're talking about movie posters, can I just ask, what is up with the Japanese movie poster of Fletch? I mean, I get it, it's going for the giant bobblehead look, but is it just me or does Chevy Chase kind of look like a baby? Yeah, he does, he looks like an overgrown baby. Speaking of Chevy Chase's wardrobe, at the end of the movie we see him wearing this hat. This is the Nostromo hat from the movie Alien. the same hat that we frequently saw Harry Dean Stanton wear in that movie. How on earth it ended up on the set of Fletch, who knows, but yeah, they're the same hat. Number 3, some unused Fletch music would be recycled for Top Gun. The score for Fletch was composed by German musician Harold Faltermeyer, who previously scored Beverly Hills Cop, and his Fletch score is honestly pretty awesome, as it's full of all the 80s pop and funk that you would expect from a fun 80s movie. However, he also composed a slower, more stylistic and even surreal piece of music that was to be used in Fletch. This particular piece of music was to be used in a dream sequence. Supposedly, when Faltermeyer was recording this piece of dream-like music, Billy Idol was also in the studio and heard the music, and told the composer that that piece of music would sound better in Top Gun. I guess Billy Idol just happened to be around that day giving career advice. So this piece of music that was originally made for Fletch then became the Top Gun anthem, where Faltermeyer teamed up with Steve Stevens and his ginormous 80s hair to record this piece of music for the as-mentioned Top Gun. So next time you watch Top Gun and hear this music, just remember, originally it wasn't to be played over footage of Navy planes, but rather Chevy Chase being all funny and kooky. Number 2, failed sequel/reboot. Fletch would return for a sequel several years later in 1989 with Fletch Lives. Now, I won't go into Fletch Lives too much, as that should be its own episode, but I will say that despite Chevy Chase and original director Michael Ritchie returning, lightning didn't seem to strike twice, as Fletch Lives wasn't as successful in the box office, nor did it get as good reviews. However, after Fletch Lives, there have been several failed attempts to get a Fletch 3 off the ground. In the late 90s, after the release of Mallrats, Universal Pictures had Kevin Smith come on board to helm a third Fletch movie, which was to see Chevy Chase returning. However, Smith then took the production to Miramax, and Chase and Smith just weren't seeing eye to eye on the project, which caused Chase to walk out. Where Smith then decided to make the new Fletch movie a prequel called Fletch 1, spelt W-O-N, which was to focus on Fletcher's earlier years as an investigating journalist, with possibly Ben Affleck or Jason Lee playing a younger version of Fletch. As of 2003, the project was still going forward, with Zach Braff being cast as Fletch, although come 2005, and Smith left the production, where it was then being picked up by Scrubs creator Bill Lawrence, who seemed really enthusiastic and excited about the project. However, in 2006, Braff left the production to work on another movie, and then Lawrence was replaced by Hot Tub Time Machine director Steve Pink. Then in 2011, Warner Bros. Purchased the rights to Fletch, with plans to make their own movie, with Jason Sudeikis as Fletch. But Warner Bros. Didn't like the script that was handed in, finding it to be too much of a gritty action movie, so they dropped out. The Fletch rights then found their way to Relativity Studios, but once again nothing happened here as the studio went bankrupt. So now Fletch is back at the hands of Miramax, with a new movie in production called Confess Fletch, which stars John Hamm as Fletch. So yeah, a new Fletch movie does finally seem to be off the ground, but it was a long and exhausting process to get there. Number 1, Chevy Chase's favourite performance. During Fletch's post-production phase, Universal felt that Fletch was going to be a sure hit, on the account that it had Chevy Chase in it, who was at the height of his career at the time. So they were going to market Fletch as if it was a massive hit. However, there were a few blows to the studio's confidence, as early previews of Fletch weren't so flattering. But Universal didn't back down, believing Fletch to be a sure hit. And so Fletch was released in May 1985, and would go on to make $59 million on an $8 million budget. It opened up just second place after Rambo First Blood Part 2, so it was financially successful. Despite Roger Ebert, who enjoyed Fletch, but thought that Chase was miscast, Fletch got favourable reviews from critics who found it to be a funny, smart, and quick-thinking comedy thriller, which takes Chase's acting abilities to a more intense direction, while still allowing him to use his comedy chops. Fletch is a perfectly enjoyable 1980s movie about a journalist getting caught up in a murder conspiracy, and it's an interesting chapter in Chevy Chase's career, where he could be his usual funny self while also exploring other acting styles. It's a memorable performance of which Chevy Chase himself has gone on to describe as being the favourite of his performances. So that was my look into Fletch. It's a perfectly enjoyable comedy romp from the 80s, and all Chevy Chase fans will no doubt get enjoyment out of it. So yeah, I recommend this movie. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what that third movie would be like. Anyway, I'm Minty, and just don't forget that at one stage we could have had Fletch played by Mick Jagger. A Fletch who moves like Jagger, if you will. That would have been really interesting. See ya!